Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Justin Butcher, director and co-producer of this evening's event, and on behalf of my co-producer, Julia Holden, J Productions Milan, our sponsor, Trevisan and Quanzo, our charity partner, the community of Sant'Egidio, and all our creative team and cast, including renowned Italian artists Felice, Limosani, and Gabriele Dell'Otto, I am delighted to welcome you to Speaking Dante, a dramatic celebration in Italian and English of the poetry of Dante Alighieri, still alive on our lips and in our hearts, 700 years after his death. We are honored to present this evening's performance in partnership with the community of Sant'Egidio in support of their inspiring work with refugees and migrants in Italy. 700 years ago, Dante fled his home city of Florence, a refugee from civil war and political persecution. Disgraced, exiled, and sentenced to death in absentia, Dante never returned to his beloved, accursed Florence. And in these years of exile, Dante's Divine Comedy was conceived, a dream journey through hell and purgatory, guided by the ancient Roman poet Virgil, and then through paradise, led by his adored Beatrice. 100 cantos of the most sublime poetry ever written, born out of the anguish of exile and disgrace. But before his political career, before his military service, the youthful Dante was first and last a poet, and his theme was love. And so our celebration begins with two samples of Dante's youthful love poetry from his earliest work, La Vita Nuova, read by Jan Noble and Francesca Signorini.
Ladies that have intelligence of love, I tell you of my lady. Not because I think to do her justice with my praise, but to relieve the burden on my mind. When I consider her great worth, love leaves so sweet a feeling in me that my voice, but that I then lose courage, might arouse by speech alone such love in all mankind. I will not look for the exalted kind of language, of speech that makes me shrink away in fear, but I will tell of all that makes her dear in words too light for her and yet designed for loving ladies, and for maidens too, not to be heard by anyone. In the eternal mind, an angel cries, saying, "We see, Lord, how the low world breeds a miracle incarnate that proceeds from a soul shining even to this height. And heaven, where no imperfection lies, save lack of her, begs that the Lord concede her advent, for which saints in glory plead. Pity alone remains to take our part. For God, who has my lady in his thought, proclaims, 'Have patience, loved ones, while I please. Your hope will linger where one man foresees that he will lose her. It shall be his fate to say in hell, "Oh, you born to be lost, I have beheld the hope of all the blessed." My lady is desired in heaven above. Now, I would show her excellence and declare that ladies who are eager to appear noble themselves should keep her company. For where she walks, a chill is cast by love on evil hearts to freeze the thoughts they bear. Yet if such men could stand to look on her, they would turn noble or else cease to be. If she finds someone who deserves to see her as she is, then he will prove the whole power her presence has to save the soul, humbled, forgetting every injury. She has one greater grace that God has sent. No one she speaks with will make an evil end. Love says of her, "How can a mortal be so beautiful a creature and so pure?" And looking yet again, thinks he would swear God made her with a miracle in mind. Her hue is pearl-like, and its quality does not exceed what makes a woman fair. What goodness nature bears was born in her. By her example, beauty is defined. Her eyes, wherever she may turn them, send forth in flame spirits of love that strike the eyes of anyone who meets her look, and then pass through to where the heart is found. You will see love depicted in her face, but that is where no man can fix his gaze. My song, when I have sent you forth, I know that you will speak with ladies on your way. Now, therefore, since I brought you up to be like love's own humble daughter, young and plain, I bid you ask wherever you may go. Sent as I am for this, teach me, I pray, the path to her whose praises I display. And that your journey should not be in vain, do everything you can to remain among low-minded people, but confide in women or some courteous man to guide you quickly to the end you should attain. You will find love together with her there. So, as you should, commend me to his care.
Tanto gentile e tanto onesta pare la donna mia, quand'ella altrui saluta, ch'ogni lingua de ven tremando muta, e li occhi no l'ardiscon di guardare. Ella si va, sentendosi laudare, benignamente d'umiltà vestuta, e par che sia una cosa avvenuta da cielo in terra a miracol mostrare. Mostrasi sì piacente a chi la mira, che dà per gli occhi una dolcezza al core, che intender non la può chi non la prova. E par che della sua labbia si mova un spirto soave pien d'amore, che va dicendo all'anima: sospira.
Dante's beloved Beatrice, of course, was betrothed to and married someone else, as did he. And she died very young, and so she was always, for Dante, an idealized figure forever out of reach. Dissatisfied with his romantic verses, pining after an unobtainable beloved, we find Dante's imagination stirring at the end of La Vita Nuova, turning his creative ambition towards a loftier theme.
Appresso a questo sonetto apparve a me una mirabile visione, nella quale io vidi cose che mi fecero proporre di non dire più di questa benedetta infino a tanto che io potesse più degnamente trattare di lei. E di venire a ciò io studio quando posso, siccom'ella sae veracemente, sì che se piacere sarà di colui a cui tutte le cose vivono, che la mia vita duri per alquanti anni, io spero di dicer di lei quello che mai non fue detto d'alcuna. E poi piaccia a colui che è sire della cortesia, che la mia anima se ne possa agire a vedere la gloria della sua donna, cioè di quella benedetta Beatrice, la quale gloriosamente mira nella faccia di colui cui est per omnia secula benedictus.
In the year 1300, the Republic of Florence was one of the most prosperous and powerful city-states in all of Europe. The Fiorino d'Oro, the gold florin of the Republic, became the most widespread international currency, bringing vast wealth to Florence. A vicious, prolonged power struggle erupted between those loyal to the German Holy Roman Emperor and those who supported the Pope, which engulfed the Republic. Amongst the many victims of the Civil War was the poet Dante Alighieri, who was condemned to perpetual exile in 1302 for alleged corruption while serving as city prior, Florence's highest public office. Had he tried to return, he would have faced burning at the stake. In June 2008, the City Council of Florence passed a motion rescinding Dante's sentence. I have traveled like a stranger, almost like a beggar, through virtually all the regions to which this tongue of ours extends, displaying against my will the wound of fortune. Truly, I have been a ship without sail or rudder, blown by the dry wind that painful poverty blows. In these years of exile, Dante's Divine Comedy was conceived. It begins on the night before Good Friday in the year 1300.
Midway in the journey of our life, I came to myself in a dark wood, for the straight way was lost. Oh, how hard it is to tell the nature of that wood. Savage, dense, harsh. The very thought of it renews my fear. It is so bitter. Death is hardly more so. But to set forth the good I found, I will recount the other things I saw. How I came there, I cannot really tell. I was so full of sleep when I forsook the one true way. But when I reached the foot of the hill, there, where the valley ended, that had pierced my heart with fear, looking up, I saw its shoulders arrayed in the first light of the planet that leads men straight, no matter what their road. Then the fear that had endured in the lake of my heart, all night I spent in such distress, was calmed. And as one who, with laboring breath, as he escapes from the deep to the shore, turns back and looks at the perilous waters, so my mind, still in flight, turned back to look once more upon the pass no mortal being ever left alive. After I rested my wearied flesh a while, I took my way again along the desert slope, my firm foot always lower than the other. But now, at the beginning of the steep, a leopard, light and swift and covered with a spotted pelt, refused to back away from me, but so impeded, barred the way that many times I turned to go back down. It was the hour of the morning, when the sun mounts with those stars that shone with it when God's own love first set in motion those fair things. So that despite that beast with gaudy fur, I still could hope for good, encouraged by the hour of the day and the sweet season, only to be struck by fear when I beheld a lion in my way. He seemed about to pounce, his head held high and furious with hunger, so that the air appeared to tremble at him. And then a she-wolf, all hides and bones, seemed charged with all the appetites that have made many live in wretchedness, so weighed my spirits down with terror, which welled up at the sight of her, that I lost hope of making the ascent. And like one who rejoices in his gains, but when the time comes and he loses, turns all his thoughts to sadness and lament, such did the restless beast make me. Coming against me step by step, it drove me down to where the sun is silent. While I was fleeing to a lower place, before my eyes a figure showed, faint in the wide silence. When I saw him in that vast desert, "Have mercy on me, whatever you are," I cried, "whether shade or living man." He answered,
"Not a man, though once I was. My parents were from Lombardy. Mantua was their homeland. I was born sub Julio, though late in his time, and lived at Rome under good Augustus in an age of false and lying gods. I was a poet, and I sang the just son of Anchises, come from Troy after proud Ilium was put to flame. But you, why are you turning back in misery? Why do you not climb the peak that gives delight, origin and cause of every joy?"
Are you then, Virgil, the fountainhead that pours so full a stream of speech? I answered him, my head bent low in shame. "Oh, glory and light of all other poets! Let my long study and great love avail that made me delve so deep into your volume. You are my teacher and my author. You are the one from whom alone I took the noble style that has brought me honor. See, that beast that forced me to turn back, save me from her famous sage. She makes my veins and pulses tremble."
"It is another path that you must follow,"
he answered when he saw me weeping.
"if you would flee this wild and savage place. For the beast that moves you to cry out, 'Let no man pass her way,' but so besets him that she slays him. Therefore, for your sake, I think it wise you follow me. I will be your guide, leading you from here through an eternal place where you shall hear despairing cries and see those ancient souls in pain as they bewail their second death. Then you will see the ones who are content to burn because they hope to come, whenever it may be, among the blessed. Should you desire to ascend to these, you'll find a soul more fit to lead than I. I'll leave you in her care when I depart. For the emperor, who has his seat on high, wills not, because I was a rebel to his law, that I should make my way into his city. In every part he reigns, and there he rules. There is his city and his lofty seat. Happy the one whom he elects to be there.
And I answered, Poet, I entreat you by the God you did not know, so that I may escape this harm and worse. Lead me to the realms you've just described, that I may see St. Peter's gate, and those you tell me are so sorrowful. Then he set out, and I came on behind him.
As the two poets set out, Dante is overcome by fear. Very few have ever undertaken such a journey before through the world of the dead. Only mighty predecessors such as Aeneas and St. Paul. Dante feels unworthy in such company. Virgil rebukes his cowardice and relates how he has been enlisted by Dante's beloved muse Beatrice, summoned by St. Lucia at the request of the Virgin Mary herself, who has taken pity on his despair. Beatrice has descended from heaven down to the uppermost circle of hell, limbo, where the virtuous pagans who lived before the time of Christ are suspended. Finding Virgil there, Beatrice has asked him to guide her friend on the path through hell and purgatory until she herself can become his guide at the gate of heaven. Dante takes heart and agrees to follow him. The two poets enter the vestibule that leads to hell itself. They see the inscription above the gate and hear the screams of anguish from the damned souls. Rejected by God but not accepted by the powers of hell, the first group of souls are nowhere, as they never made a choice in life. So they must follow a banner at a furious pace forever, tormented by flies and hornets.
Per me si va nella città dolente, per me si va nell'eterno dolore, per me si va tra la perduta gente. Giustizia mosse il mio alto fattore, fecemi la divina podestate, la somma sapienza e il primo amore. Dinanzi a me non fuor cose create, se non eterne, e io eterno duro. Lasciate ogni speranza, voi ch'intrate. Queste parole di colore oscuro vidi scritte al sommo d'una porta. perch'io, maestro, il senso lor m'è duro, ed elli a me, come persona accorta, qui si convien lasciare ogni sospetto, ogni viltà convien che qui sia morta. Noi siam venuti al loco v'io t'ho detto, che tu vedrai le genti dolorose, ch'hanno perduto il ben dell'intelletto. E poi che la sua mano alla mia puose, con lieto volto ond'io mi confortai, mi mise dentro alle segrete cose. Quivi, sospiri, pianti ed alti guai risonavan per l'aere senza stelle, perch'io al cominciar ne lagrimai. Diverse lingue, orribili favelle, parole di dolore, accenti d'ira, voci alte e fioche e suon di manconelle facevano un tumulto, il qual s'aggira sempre in quell'aura senza tempo tinta, come l'arena quando turbo spira. E io, ch'avea d'error la testa cinta, dissi: maestro, che è quel chiodo? E che gente è che par nel duol sì vinta? Ed elli a me, questo misero modo, tegno l'anime triste di color che visser, senza infamia e senza lodo. Mischiate sono a quel cattivo coro degli angeli che non furon ribelli, né fur fedeli a Dio, ma per sé fuoro. Caccian lì i cieli per non esser men belli, né lo profondo inferno li riceve, ch'alcuna gloria i rei avrebber delli. E io, maestro, che è tanto greve allor che lamentar li fa sì forte, rispose: dicerolti molto breve, questi non hanno speranza di morte, la lor cieca vita è tanto bassa che invidiosi son d'ogni altra sorte. Fama di loro il mondo esser non lassa, misericordia e giustizia li sdegna. Non ragioniam di lor, ma guarda e passa. E io, che riguardai, vidi un'ansegna, che girando correva tanto ratta, che d'ogni posa mi pareva indegna. E dietro le venia sì lunga tratta di gente, chi non avrei creduto che morte tanta n'avesse disfatta.
Dante is led by Virgil to the first circle of hell, limbo, where the sad shades of virtuous non-Christians dwell, not tormented, but without hope of seeing God. They see a light glowing in the distance. They proceed towards it, and they're met by the other great pagan poets, Homer, Horace, Ovid, and Lucan, who welcome Dante and lead him to a noble castle where the greatest pre-Christian philosophers dwell, Aristotle and Plato amongst them. But soon they must leave, and the poets move from the radiance of the castle towards the fearful, encompassing darkness. Virgil leads Dante down to the threshold of the second circle, where for the first time he will see the damned in hell being punished for their sins. There, the hideous figure of Minos, judge of the underworld, bars their way. But at Virgil's rebuke, they are allowed to pass into the dark circle, where they hear the wailing voices of the lustful, forever whirled about in a dark tempest. after seeing 1,000 or more famous lovers, including Semiramis, legendary queen of Assyria, Dido, queen of Carthage, who slew herself for love of Aeneas, Helen of Troy and her lover Paris, Achilles and Tristan, the pilgrim asks to speak to two figures he sees together. They are Francesca da Rimini and her lover Paola da Verrucchio, younger brother of her husband Giancotto, who killed them both in a jealous rage when he caught them in the act of adultery. On hearing their story, Dante, overwhelmed by pity for the lovers, faints to the ground.
Now I can hear the screams of agony. Now I have come where a great wailing beats upon me. I reached a place mute of all light, which bellows as the sea in tempest tossed by conflicting winds. The hellish squall, which never rests, sweeps spirits in its headlong rush, tormenting whirls and strikes them. Caught in that path of violence, they shriek and weep and lament. Then, oh, how they curse the power of God. Here and there, down and up, it drives them. Never are they comforted by hope of rest or even lesser punishment. So that I said, Master, who are these whom the black air lashes? There is no greater sorrow than to recall our time of joy in wretchedness, and this your teacher knows. But if you feel such longing to know the first root of our love, I shall tell as one who weeps in telling. One day, to pass the time in pleasure, we read of Lancelot, how love enthralled him. We were alone without the least misgiving. More than once, that reading made our eyes meet and drained the color from our faces. Still, it was a single instant overcame us. When we read how the longed-for smile was kissed by so renowned a lover, this man, who never shall be parted from me, all trembling, kissed me on my mouth. While the spirit said this, the other wept, so that for pity I swooned as if in death, and down I fell as a dead body falls.
As the poets progress down through the circles of hell, our attention is directed increasingly from the frailty of human intemperance to the abuse of power and wealth, as Dante's fierce satirical anger lands blow after blow against the corruption of church and state. The eighth circle, the male bolge, the evil pockets, is divided into 10 concentric ditches, each containing different categories of the fraudulent. In the first ditch, panders and seducers are forced to keep moving as horned demons whip them forward. In the second ditch, flatterers are flailing in excrement and filth. The third ditch contains the simonists, those who bought and sold the church's offices and influence, so named after Simon Magus, who was castigated by the apostles Peter and John in the book of Acts for trying to purchase the power of the Holy Spirit. The souls are trapped inside rocks, their legs sticking out, their feet are burned by flames. Dante is curious about a victim being burned by a redder flame, whose legs are thrashing around in more agony than the others. Virgil carries him down to the rock so as to protect him from the flames, and it turns out to be Pope Nicholas III, who died in 1280. Nicholas is waiting for his successor, Boniface, to come and join him as a fellow Simonist. Realizing that he is speaking to the late Pope, Dante roundly abuses him for selling out the church.
O Simon Magus, O wretches of his band, greedy for gold and silver, who prostitute the things of God that should be brides of goodness. Now must the trumpet sound for you, because your place is there in that third ditch. We had come to where the next tomb lay, having climbed to the point upon the ridge that overlooks the middle of the trench. Oh, supreme wisdom, what great art you show in heaven, on earth, and in the evil world, and what true justice does your power dispense? Along the sides and bottom I could see the livid stone was pierced with holes, all round and of a single size. They seemed to me as wide and deep as those in my beautiful St. John, made for the priests to baptize in, one of which not many years ago I broke to save one nearly drowned in it. And let this be my seal, to undeceive all men. From the mouth of each stuck out a sinner's feet and legs up to the thighs, while all the rest stayed in the hole. They all had both their souls on fire. It made their knee joints writhe so hard they would have severed twisted vines or ropes. As flames move only on the surface of oily matter caught on fire, so these flames flickered heel to toe. Who is that master who in his torment wriggles more than any of his fellows and is licked by redder flames? And he?
If you like, I'll take you down along the lower bank, and you will learn from him his life and his misdeeds.
And I? Whatever pleases you is my desire. You are my lord, and know I do your will. You know too what I leave unsaid. Then we came to the fourth embankment, turned and ascended on our left into a narrow bottom, pierced with holes. The good master clasped me to his side and did not set me down until we came to the pit of one lamenting with his shanks. Whatever you are, with your upper parts below, planted like a post, you wretched souls, said I, come out with something if you can. I stood there like a friar who confesses a treacherous assassin. Once fixed in place, he calls the friar back to stay his death. And he cried out,
"Is that you already? Are you here already, Boniface? By several years the writing lied to me. Are you so swiftly sated with those prophets for which you did not fear to take by guile the beautiful lady and to do her outrage?"
I became like those who stand there mocked, not comprehending what to say to them, and thus not knowing what to say in turn. Then Virgil said,
Tell him right away, I'm not the one. I'm not the one you think.
I gave the answer I was told to give. At that, the spirit's feet began to writhe. Then, sighing with a plaintive voice, he said,
"What is it then you want from me? If you're so keen to learn my name that you descended from the bank for it, know that I was cloaked in the great mantle, but in truth I was a son of the she-bear, and so avid was I to advance my cubs, I filled my purse as now I fill this hole. Beneath my head are crushed the others who practiced simony before me, now flattened into fissures in the rock. In turn, I too shall be thrust lower down as soon as he arrives whom I mistook you for when I called out my hasty question. But the time I've already roasted my feet upside down here is already longer than he'll be planted with his feet on fire, for after him shall come a lawless shepherd from the west, one even fouler in his deeds, fit to be the cover over him and me. A new Jason shall he be, the one of whom we read in Maccabees, and even as the king indulged Jason, so the king of France shall deal with him."
I do not know if then I was too bold when I answered him in just this strain. "Please tell me, how much treasure did our Lord insist on from St. Peter before he gave the keys into his keeping? Surely he asked no more than, 'Follow me.' Nor did Peter or the others take gold or silver from Matthias when he was picked by lot to fill the place lost by the guilty soul. Stay there then, for you are justly punished, guarding well those gains ill-gotten that made you boldly take your stand against King Charles. And were it not that I am still restrained by the reverence I owe the keys supreme, which once you held in the happy life above, I would resort to even harsher words, because your avarice afflicts the world, trampling down the good and raising up the wicked. Shepherds like you the evangelist had in mind when he saw the one that sits upon the waters committing fornication with the kings. She that was born with 7 heads and from 10 horns derived her strength as long as virtue pleased her bridegroom. You have wrought yourselves a god of gold and silver. How then do you differ from those who worship idols, except they worship one and you 100? Ah, Constantine, to what evil you gave birth, not by your conversion, but by the dowry that the first rich father had from you. And while I sang such notes to him, whether gnawed by anger or by conscience, he kicked out hard with both his feet. Truly, I believe this pleased my leader. He listened with such a look of contentment to the sound of the truthful words I spoke. Therefore, he caught me in his arms, and when he had me all upon his breast, remounted by the path he had descended. Nor did he tire of holding me so close, but bore me to the summit of the arch that crosses from the 4th dyke to the 5th. Here gently he set down his burden, gently on account of the steep, rough ridge that would have made hard going for a goat. And there, before me, another valley opened.
Their descent to the bottommost depths of hell brings the two poets to the 9th circle, the frozen lake of Cocytus, where the souls here are trapped so deep in ice that they are fully encased and indistinguishable. In the center is Satan, gigantic and horrible, with 6 bat-like wings and 3 faces weeping tears of foamy blood. In each of his 3 mouths is one of the ultimate sinners, Judas Iscariot, Brutus, and Cassius, the murderers of Julius Caesar. Dante holds on to Virgil, who climbs onto Satan himself and descends through the ice. At the midpoint of the earth, they pass into the southern hemisphere and begin to climb upwards rather than down. Dante is disorientated as they emerge into a cavern with Satan's feet suspended in the air. Virgil explains that they have passed through the bottom of hell, and the 2 of them begin their ascent to the surface.
The banners of the King of Hell advance toward us. Look straight before you and see if you can make him out, my master said. Now, and I shudder as I write it out in verse, I was where the shades were wholly covered, showing through like bits of straw in glass. Some are lying down, still others stand erect, some with their heads and some with their foot soles up, some bent like bows, their faces to their toes. Then how faint and frozen I became, reader, do not ask, for I do not write it, since my words would fail to be enough. I did not die, nor did I stay alive. Imagine, if you have the wit, what I became, deprived of either state. The emperor of the woeful kingdom rose from the ice below his breast, and I in size am closer to a giant than giants are when measured to his arms. If he was fair as he is hideous now, and raised his brow in scorn of his creator, he is fit to be the source of every sorrow. Oh, what a wonder it appeared to me when I perceived 3 faces on his head. The first in front was red in color. Another 2 he had, each joined with this above the midpoint of each shoulder, and all the 3 united at the crest. Beneath each face 2 mighty wings emerged, such as befit so vast a bird. I never saw such massive sails at sea. They were featherless and fashioned like a bat's wings. When he flapped them, he sent forth 3 separate winds, the sources of the ice upon Cocytus. Out of 6 eyes he wept, and his 3 chins dripped tears and drooled blood-red saliva. With his teeth, just like a hackle pounding flax, he champed a sinner in each mouth, tormenting 3 at once. That soul up there, who bears the greatest pain, said the master, is Judas Iscariot, who has his head within and outside flails his legs. As for the other 2, whose heads are dangling down, Brutus is hanging from the swarthy snout. See how he writhes and utters not a word. And from the other, Cassius, so large of limb. But night is rising in the sky. It is time for us to leave, for we have seen it all. Into that hidden passage my guide and I entered, to find again the world of light. And without thinking of a moment's rest, we climbed up, he first and I behind him, far enough to see, through a round opening, a few of those fair things the heavens bear. Then we came forth to see again the stars.
second cantico of the Divine Comedy, Purgatorio, finds Dante and Virgil on the shores of the mountain of Purgatory, the forbidden island glimpsed from afar by Ulysses and his companions in their final voyage. Here, through their productive suffering, their purging of their sins, souls on the path to redemption can progress up the mountain towards paradise. The lower slopes of the mountain are described as ante-purgatory, an in-between realm. In Canto 9, Dante dreams that he is carried heavenward by an eagle with golden feathers. Burned by the heavens, he awakes and finds himself at the gate of purgatory. Virgil tells him that Saint Lucia appeared while he was sleeping and carried him there. Dante supplicates the guardian of the gate, who carves 7 marks in the shape of the letter P on his forehead. Then Dante is sent forward, and he and Virgil cross the threshold into purgatory.
The concubine of old Tithonus, fresh from her doting lover's arms, was glowing white at the window of the east, her forehead glittering with gems, set in the shape of that cold-blooded creature that strikes men with its tail. Where we were, night had made 2 steps in her ascent, and now the wings of the 3rd were already drooping. When I, who had with me something of Adam, lay down, overcome by sleep, there on the grass where the 5 of us were seated. At the hour near the verge of morning, when the swallow begins her plaintive song, remembering perhaps her woes of long ago, and when our mind, more pilgrim from the flesh and less caught up in thoughts, is more prophetic in its visions, in a dream, I seemed to see an eagle with golden feathers hovering in the sky, his wings spread wide, ready to swoop. And to me it seemed I was in the very place where Ganymede abandoned his own kind when he was caught up to the highest council. And I pondered, perhaps it is its habit to strike only here, disdaining to pluck from elsewhere any in its talons. Then it seemed to me that after wheeling a while, it plunged down terrible as lightning and carried me straight to the sphere of fire. There it seemed that it and I were both aflame, and the imagined burning was so hot, my sleep was broken and gave way. Not otherwise Achilles started up, gazing with startled eyes around him, not knowing where he was. That time his mother carried him, sleeping in her arms, from Chiron to Skyros, where later the Greeks would take him away. Then I awoke, the sleep gone from my eyes, and then went deadly pale like a man frozen in terror. At my side there was no one but my comfort. The sun was more than 2 hours high. My face was turned toward the sea.
Do not be frightened,
said my lord.
Have confidence, for all is well with us. Do not hold back, but rally all your strength. Now you have come to purgatory. There, you see the rock wall that encloses it, and where that seems breached, the entrance. A short time ago, in the early light of dawn, when your soul was asleep within you, on the flowers that adorn the place below, there came a lady who said, I am Lucia. Let me gather up this sleeping man so I may speed him on his way. Sordello stayed, as did the other noble souls. And she took you, and as soon as it was day, went up, and I then followed in her steps. Here she set you down, but first her lovely eyes showed me that entrance standing open. Then she and sleep as one departed.
Like a man who comes to see the truth when he has been in doubt and now is reassured, confidence replacing what in him was fear, so was I changed. When my leader saw that I was free of care, he started up the path and I behind him, heading for the height. Reader, you surely understand that I'm raising the level of my subject here. Do not wonder, therefore, if I sustain it with more artifice. We drew closer until we reached a place where what at first had seemed a gap, a breach that rends a wall, I now saw was a gate, with 3 steps leading up to it, each one of a different colour. The keeper of that gate as yet said not a word. And when my eyes could make him out more clearly, I saw he was seated above the topmost step, his face so bright I could not bear to look. In his hand he held a naked sword which so reflected his bright eyes, I often had to turn my eager eyes away.
Say it from there. What do you want?
He began.
And where is your escort? Beware, lest your arrival cause you grief.
A lady from heaven who knows about such things,
My master replied,
said to us just now, go that way lies the gate.
And may she speed your steps to good.
Continued the courteous keeper of the gate.
Come forward then to these our stairs.
At that, we moved ahead. The first step was of clear white marble, so polished that my image was reflected in true likeness. The second was darker than the deepest purple, of unhewn stone, looking as if it had been burnt, cracked through its length and breadth. The third, resting its heavy mass above, seemed to me porphyry, as flaming red as blood that spurts out of a vein. On this, seated on the threshold, which seemed to be of adamant, the angel of God rested both his feet. Up the 3 steps my leader drew me, and I was glad for that. Then he said,
humbly petition him to slide the bolt.
Devoutly I cast myself down at his holy feet. I begged him for mercy and to let me enter, but first 3 times I smote my breast. With the point of his sword he traced 7 P's on my forehead, then said,
Once you are inside, see that you wash away these wounds.
Ashes or earth, when it is dug up dry, would be the very colour of his vestments. Out from them, under them, he drew 2 keys, one of gold, the other one of silver. He touched the door, first with the white, then the yellow, and thus my wish was satisfied.
Any time one of these keys should fail, so that it does not turn the lock,
he said to us,
this portal does not open. One is more precious, but the other one requires much skill and understanding before it will unlock. for it is this one that unties the knot. From Peter do I hold them, and his instruction was to err in opening rather than in keeping locked, if but the soul fall prostrate at my feet.
Then he pushed one door of the sacred portal open, saying,
Enter, but I warn you, he who looks back must then return outside.
And when the hinges of that sacred door, which are of heavy and resounding metal, were turning in their linchpins, the Tarpeian rock roared not so loud nor proved so strident when good Metellus was drawn away, and it was then left bare. I turned, intent on a new sound, and thought I heard Te Deum Laudamus in voices mingled with sweet counterpoint, giving me the same impression one has when listening to singers accompanied by an organ, when the words are sometimes clear and sometimes lost.
Through many experiences and encounters, during which the 7 P's, representing the word peccati, or sins, are washed away from his forehead, Dante ascends at last to the earthly paradise at the summit of the mountain, where Virgil announces that his role as Dante's guide is over. Dante's will has been purified, and therefore he is ready to follow his heart without fear of going astray. The earthly paradise is the Garden of Eden, where creation is still in its perfect, uncorrupted form. Its seeds blow on the winds to germinate across the world. Then, at the heart of the garden, the poets come upon the spectacle of a pageant, representing Christianity in all the splendor of its revelation. Its heavily allegorical procession symbolizes the writers of the Bible, the core Christian values, and the church itself, the church militant, in glorious finery, shown as a chariot drawn by a majestic griffin. The extraordinary glory and power of the pageant nearly overwhelms Dante. From the midst of the pageant, Beatrice emerges with her face veiled, his nerve failing. Dante looks to Virgil for support, but Virgil is gone. Beatrice addresses Dante, the moment which he has been longing for throughout hell and purgatory, but she begins with a harsh rebuke. She scolds him for falling into spiritual difficulties since her death. She needs him to truly repent of all the ways in which he went wrong. And Dante feels intensely conscious of his faults and starts weeping.
Io vidi già, nel cominciar del giorno, la parte oriental tutta rosata e l'altro ciel di bel sereno adorno, e la faccia del sol nascere ombrata, sì che per temperanza di vapori l'occhio la sostenea a lunga fiata. Così, dentro una nuvola di fiori, che dalle mani angeliche saliva e ricadeva in giù dentro e di fuori, sovra candido vel, cinta d'uliva, donna m'apparve sotto verde manto, vestita di color di fiamma viva. E lo spirito mio, che già cotanto tempo era stato ch'alla sua presenza non era di stupor tremando affranto, senza degli occhi aver più conoscenza per occulta virtù, che da lei mosse d'antico amor sentì la gran potenza. Tosto che nella vista mi percosse l'alta virtù che già m'avea trafitto prima che io fuor di puerizia fosse. Volsimi alla sinistra col rispitto, col quale il fantolin corre alla mamma quando ha paura o quando egli è afflitto, per dicere a Virgilio: men che dramma di sangue m'è rimaso che non temi, conosco i segni dell'antica fiamma. Ma Virgilio n'avea lasciati scemi. Di sé: Virgilio, dolcissimo padre, Virgilio a cui per mia salute diemi, né quantunque perdeo l'antica madre, valse alle guance nette di rugiada che lagrimando non tornasse radere.
Dante, perché Virgilio se ne vada, non pianger anco, non piangere ancora, che pianger ti conven per altra spada.
Quasi ammiraglio che in poppa in prora viene a veder la gente che ministra per gli altri legni e a ben farli rincora. In sulla sponda del carro sinistra, quando mi volsi al suon del nome mio che di necessità qui si registra, vidi la donna che pria m'appario, velata sotto l'angelica festa, drizzar gli occhi ver me di qua dal rio. Tutto che il vel che le scendea di testa, cerchiato delle fronde di Minerva, non la lasciasse parer manifesta. Regalmente, nell'atto ancor proterva, continuò come colui che dice e il più caldo parlar dietro reserva.
Guardaci ben son Beatrice, come degnasti d'accedere al monte, non sapei tu che qui è l'uom felice?
Gli occhi mi cadder giù dal chiaro fonte, ma veggendomi in esso mi trassi all'erba, tanta vergogna mi gravò la fronte. Così la madre al figlio par superba, com'ella parve a me, perché d'amaro sente il sapor della pietade acerba. Ella si tacque, e gli angeli cantaro. Di subito, in te Domine speravi. Ma oltre, pedes meos, non passaro. Sì come neve, tra le vive travi, per lo dosso d'Italia si congela, soffiata e stretta dagli venti schiavi, poi liquefatta, in se stessa trapela, pur che la terra che perde ombra spiri, sì che par foco fonder candela. Cosui fui senza lagrime e sospiri, anzi il cantar di quei che notan sempre dietro alle note degli eterni giri, ma poiché intesi nelle dolci tempre lor compartire a me, par che se detto avesser: donna, perché si lo stempre? Lo gel che m'era intorno al cor ristretto, spirito e acqua fessi, e con angoscia della bocca e degli occhi uscì dal petto. Ella, pur ferma in sulla detta coscia del carro stando, alle sustanze pie volse le sue parole così poscia.
Voi vigilate nell'eterno die, sì che notte né sonno a voi non fura, passo che faccia il secol per sue vie. Onde la mia risposta è con più cura che m'intenda colui che di là piagne, perché sia colpa e duol d'una misura. Non pur per ovra delle rote magne, che drizzan ciascun seme a ciascun fine, secondo che le stelle son compagne, ma per larghezza di grazie divine, che sì alti vapori hanno, allor piova, che nostre viste là non van vicine. Questi fu tal nella sua vita nova, virtualmente, c'ogni abito destro fatto avrebbe in lui mirabil prova. Ma tanto più maligno e più silvestro si fa il terren col mal seme non colto, quant'egli ha più di buon vigor terrestro. Alcun tempo il sostenni col mio volto, mostrando gli occhi giovanetti a lui, meco il menava in dritta parte volto. Sì tosto, come in su la soglia fui, di mia seconda etade mutai vita, questi si tolse a me e di esse altrui. Quando di carne a spirito era salita, e bellezza e virtù cresciuta m'era, fui io a lui men cara e men gradita, e volse i passi suoi per via non vera, immagini di ben seguendo false, che nulla promission rendon intera. Nell'impetrare ispirazion mi valse, con le quali e in sogno e altrimenti lo rivocai, sì poco a lui ne calse. Tanto giù cadde, che tutti argomenti alla salute sua eran già corti, fuor che mostrarli le perdute genti. Per questo visitai l'uscio di morti, e a colui che l'acqua su condotto, li prieghi miei piangendo furon porti. Alto fato di Dio sarebbe rotto, se le tesi passasse e tal vivanda fosse gustata senza alcuno scotto di pentimento che lagrime spanda.
In the final canto of Purgatorio, Beatrice exhorts Dante to enter the river Eunoe. Eunoe reinforces one's good memories as its twin, the river Lethe, washes away remembrance of one's sins. Thus fortified, Dante is ready to be shown the answers to all the holy mysteries. As the third cantina, Paradiso, begins, Beatrice gazes into the sun, and Dante does too. Because of his enhanced faculties, he seems to see the sky filled with the sun's fire, and he hears the heavenly music of the spheres. Seeing his amazement, Beatrice says they have left the earth and are rising towards the heavens at incredible speed. Dante asks how this is possible, and Beatrice says that the soul naturally tends towards God, and now that Dante is unshackled from his earthly preoccupations, his soul is free to soar. In the fifth sphere of the heavens, in Canto 15, one of the blessed souls approaches like a meteor and reveals himself to be Dante's great-great-grandfather, Cacciaguida. Cacciaguida tells Dante about the ideal Florence of his day, of modesty and virtue, contrasting it with the moral ruin of Florence in 1300. This sphere of Mars is for the warrior saints, and Cacciaguida tells how he was martyred while on crusade. In Canto 17, Dante asks what his future holds. Cacciaguida tells him about his exile and the hardships that will come with it. He tells Dante that he will find refuge with the Della Scala family in Verona, and that Can Grande della Scala will become a great hero for the cause of good in Italy. Dante's prophetic mission to write about his journey and deliver its truth to his contemporaries is emphasized.
Oh, my precious root, you are raised so high that even as earthly minds discern no triangle can contain two angles, both of them obtuse, so you, gazing on the point that holds all time, are able to discern contingencies before they are apparent in themselves. While I was still in Virgil's company, both on the mountain that restores our souls and during our descent into the region of the dead, grave words were said to me about my future life. However much I feel myself prepared, foursquare against the blows of chance, so that my will would be content if I could know what fate draws near, for the arrow one expects comes slower.
As Hippolytus was forced to flee from Athens because of his stepmother, treacherous and fierce, so shall you be forced to flee from Florence. This is the plan already set in motion that soon will bring success to him who plots it, where Christ is bought and sold all day. The populace shall blame the injured party, as it always does, but vengeance shall bear witness to the truth that metes it out. You shall leave behind all that you most dearly love, and that shall be the arrow first loosed from exile's bow. You shall learn how salt is the taste of another man's bread, and how hard is the way going down and then up another man's stairs. But the heaviest burden your shoulders must bear shall be the companions, wicked and witless, among whom you shall fall in your descent. They, utterly ungrateful, mad and faithless, shall soon turn against you. But soon enough they, not you, shall feel their faces blushing past their brows. Of their brutish state the results shall offer proof, and it shall bring you honor to have made a single party of yourself alone. And you shall bear this written in your memory, but you shall not tell of it.
And he foretold events that even those who witness them shall not believe. Then he added,
Son, these are the glosses on what was told you. These are the snares that lurk behind a few revolving years. Yet I would not have you feel envious disdain for your fellow townsmen, since your life shall far outlast the punishment of their treachery. Beatrice and Dante pass out of the universe, beyond the bounds of time and space itself, to the Empyrean, the true paradise which envelops the world. Dante drinks from a river of light, which enables his faculties to fully comprehend the staggering, dazzling sight of the final heaven. All the spirits are gathered in a vast, white rose shape, infinitely happy and immortal, and their shining light bathes Dante with its intense power. Even here, Beatrice manages to get in a dig at the corrupt popes who will soon be in hell. Dante gazes at the rows of souls and the host of angels flying around them. He turns to discover that Beatrice's place by his side has been taken by Saint Bernard. Bernard points out where Beatrice is now amidst the holy throng. He prepares Dante for the next sight, then guides Dante's eyes to it. The Virgin Mary herself, outshining all the other spirits. Saint Bernard prays to Mary to give Dante strength to gaze into the light of God himself. Finally, Dante is ready for this climactic moment of his journey, and he looks into the light. This light is so powerful, it overwhelms Dante's memory and his ability to express the wonder of what he sees. But he perceives 3 shining circles representing the Trinity and feels himself consumed utterly by the love that moves the sun and the other stars.
Vergine Madre, figlia del tuo Figlio, umile e alta più che creatura, termine fisso d'eterno consiglio, tu sei colei che l'umana natura nobilitasti sì che il suo fattore non disdegnò di farsi sua fattura. Nel ventre tuo si raccese l'amore, per lo cui caldo nell'eterna pace così è germinato questo fiore. Qui se a noi, meridiana face, di caritate e giuso intramortali, sei di speranza, fontana vivace. Donna, sei tanto grande e tanto vali, che qual vol grazie a te non ricorre, sua disianza vuol volar sansali, la tua benignità non pur soccorre a chi domanda, ma molte fiate liberamente al dimandar precorre. In te misericordia, in te pietate, in te magnificenza, in te s'aduna quantunque in creature di bontate. Or questi, che dall'infima lacuna dell'universo, infin qui avvedute, le vite spiritali ad una, supplica a te, per grazia di virtute, tanto che possa con gli occhi levarsi più alto verso l'ultima salute. E io, che mai per mio veder non arsi, più che i fo per lo suo, tutti i miei prieghi, ti porgo e priego che non siano scarsi, perché tu ogni nube li disleghi di sua mortalità coi prieghi tuoi, sì che il sommo piacer li si dispieghi. Ancor ti priego, Regina, che puoi ciò che tu vuoli, che conservi sani, dopo tanto vederli affetti suoi. Vinca tua guardia i movimenti umani. Vedi, Beatrice, con quanti beati per le miei prieghi ti chiudon le mani. Gli occhi da Dio, diletti e venerati, fissi nell'oratorne dimostraro quanto i devoti prieghi le son grati. Indi all'eterno lume s'addrizzaro, nel qual non si dee creder che si invii per creatura l'occhio tanto chiaro. E io, che al fin di tutti i disii appropinquava sì com'io dovea, l'ardor del desiderio in me finii. Bernardo m'accennava e sorridea perch'io guardassi suso, ma io era già per me stesso, tal qual lei volea, che la mia vista, venendo sincera, e più intrava per lo raggio dell'alta luce che da sé è vera. Da quinci innanzi il mio veder fu maggio, che il parlar mostra ch'a tal vista cede, e cede la memoria a tanto oltraggio. Qual è colui che sognando vede, che dopo il sogno la passione impressa rimane, all'altro, alla mente non riede, cotal son io, che quasi tutta cessa mia visione, e ancor mi distilla nel core il dolce che nacque da essa. Così la neve al sol si disigilla, così al vento negli foglie levi si perdea la sentenza di Sibilla. O somma luce, che tanto ti levi da concetti mortali alla mia mente, ripresta un poco di quel che parevi, e fa la lingua mia tanto possente che una favilla sol della tua gloria possa lasciare alla futura gente, che per tornare alquanto a mia memoria e per sonare un poco in questi versi, più si concepirà la tua vittoria. Io credo, per l'acume ch'io soffersi del vivo raggio, chi sarei smarrito se gli occhi miei fosse da lui avversi. E mi ricordai che fui più ardito per questo a sostener tanto chi giunsi l'aspetto mio col valore infinito. Oh, abbondante grazia, ond'io presunsi ficcar lo viso per la luce eterna, tanto che la veduta vi consunsi. Nel suo profondo vidi che s'interna, legato con amor in un volume, ciò che per l'universo si squaderna, sustanze, accidenti e lor costumi, quasi conflati insieme, per tal modo che ciò che dico è un semplice lume. La forma universal di questo nodo credo che vidi, perché più di largo, dicendo questo, mi sento chi godo. Un punto solo m'è maggior letargo, che 25 secoli all'impresa che fe Nettuno a mirar l'ombra d'argo. Così la mente mia tutta sospesa mirava fissa, immobile e attenta, e sempre di mirar faceasi accesa a quella luce cotal si diventa che volgersi da lei per altro aspetto è impossibil che mai si consenta. Però che il ben ch'è del volere obietto tutto s'accoglie in lei, e fuor di quella è defettivo ciò che lì è perfetto. Ormai sarà più corta mia favella, pur a quel ch'io ricordo, che d'un fante che bagna ancor la lingua la mammella, non perché più che un semplice sembiante fosse nel vivo lume ch'io mirava, che tale sempre qual s'era davanti, ma per la vista che s'avvalorava in me guardando una sola parvenza, mutando mio a me si travagliava. Nella profonda e chiara sussistenza dell'alto lume parvemi 3 giri di 3 colori ed una contenenza, e l'un l'altro come iri da iri parea riflesso, e il terzo parea fuoco, e quinci e quindi igualmente si spiri. Oh, quanto è corto il dire, e com'è fioco al mio concetto e a quel chi vidi, e tanto che non basta a dicer poco. O luce eterna, che da sola te sidi, sola t'intendi, e da te intelletta intendente te ami e arridi, quella circolazione che si concetta pareva in te come lume riflesso dagli occhi miei alquanto circuspetta. Dentro da sé del suo colore stesso mi parve pinta della nostra effigie, perché il mio viso in lei tutto era messo. Qual è il geometra che tutto s'affige per misurarlo cerchio e non ritrova, pensando a quel principio ond'ell'indige, tal ero io a quella vista nova. Veder voleva come si convenne l'imago al cerchio e come vi si indova. Ma non eran da ciò le proprie penne, se non che la mia mente fu percossa da un fulgore che sua voglia venne, e l'alta fantasia qui mancò possa, ma già volge al mio disio, e il velle si roda, ch'igualmente mossa l'amor che muove il sole ed altre stelle.
Midway in the journey of our life, I came to myself in a dark wood, for the straight way was lost.
Per me si va nella città dolente, per me si va nell'eterno dolore, per me si va tra la perduta gente. Giustizia mosse il mio alto fattore, fecemi la divina podestate, la somma sapienza e il primo amore. Dinanzi a me non fur cose create, se non eterne, e io eterno duro. Lasciate ogni speranza, voi che entrate.
Amor, ch'al cor gentil ratto s'apprende, prese costui della bella persona che mi fu tolta, e il modo ancor m'offende. Amor, ch'a nullo amato amar perdona, mi prese del costui piacer sì forte, che come vedi ancor non m'abbandona. Amor condusse noi ad una morte, Cain attende chi a vita ci spense. Queste parole da lor ci fur porte.
O Simon Magus, O wretches of his kind, greedy for gold and silver, who prostitute the things of God that should be brides of goodness. Now must the trumpet sound for you, because your place is there in that third ditch.
Consider how your souls were sown. You were not made to live like brutes or beasts, but to pursue virtue and knowledge.
At the hour near the verge of morning, when the swallow begins her plaintive song, remembering perhaps her woes of long ago, and when our mind, more pilgrim from the flesh and less caught up in thoughts, is more prophetic in its visions, in a dream, I seem to see an eagle with golden feathers hovering in the sky, his wings spread wide, ready to swoop.
Guardaci ben, ben son Beatrice, come degnasti d'accedere al monte. Non sapei tu che qui è l'uom felice?
All'alta fantasia qui manco possa, ma già volge il mio disio e il velle, siccome rota, ch'igualmente mossa.
L'amor che muove il sole
e
E l'altre stelle.
eh?
Pezzi orecchi.